Guys, what is it about an apple and the female form, eh? I keep seeing this in my life. It's like a regular, recurring whatever, you know? The products I use, whether it be an iPhone or a Macintosh, there's always an apple and a woman. And knowledge. But anyways, I haven't done these in a while. Mainly because I was sort of sidetracked. Maybe a little sabotaged, you know? I feel like somebody really threw a monkey wrench into my whole operation here. But anyways, that's beside the point. I'm doing another video. Saying again. I haven't done these in a while, so I might be rusty, you know? Might be rusty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, right? Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. You know that nursery rhyme was like a riddle? Did you guys know that? I didn't even know that. Because the answer to the riddle was, what is he? He's an egg, you know? He was an egghead, you know? You know? An egghead who thought too highly of himself. He didn't have, like, he wasn't balanced, you know? Like, he didn't understand there's a lot more to life than just like academics or intelligentsia. So he sat on this really high wall, you know, looked down at everybody with his nose. But then you know what happened though? Sometimes when you have an egghead such as that, there's a lot of like goodness. There's like a lot of things in his head that you can utilize. So what you do is like you really you injure him in a way. It's called like a narcissistic injury, whereby he decides to jump off the wall because he can't come to terms with the fact that he's not maybe as great or intelligent as he thinks he is. That's wild, eh? Humpty Dumpty. Imagine all the gooey goodness the state got from him, eh? All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. I bet they didn't even want to put him together. I bet they wanted him to jump from that ledge so they can figure out these cool things that he's been hiding away in his head, and then they can like utilize it for cool things like weapons or like technology, you know? Yeah. It's quite a fall from grace. Oh, a fall from grace. You know who else fell from grace? I'm not gonna say, I mean, you guys know the devil, Lucifer. His problem was he also thought like very highly of himself. He also too was very narcissistic, you know? Very arrogant. And he fell. Sort of like Humpty Dumpty. Thought too highly of himself. Suffered some sort of narcissistic injury. Then he just killed himself. Poor old Humpty Dumpty. You know what this also relates to? Because I saw this movie recently. Because that's what I do, guys. I watch a lot of movies. A lot of movies. Was Anatomy of a Fall. Yeah, it's pretty dope. So the whole premise of that movie is like this couple. They live somewhere, I think it's somewhere in France or in the Alps. I don't know. But anyways, the woman is German. The man is French. They decide to speak English amongst themselves as it's just like this international language of business. I don't know. Apparently English in this movie is a common denominator as well, and everyone speaks it because they conquered the world. Now that I think about it, that movie pretty much alludes to the Second World War. I mean, she's German, he's French, and they're all speaking English, you know? Yeah, there's like an allusion to World War II there. Weird. Oh yeah, back to the movie. So what happens in the movie is, well, the anatomy of a fall. This guy falls from a very high point in his house, and it looks like he killed himself, you know? Also like Humpty Dumpty. Looks like he sort of like fell off his high horse. He couldn't deal with, you know, life struggles. I don't know. Or maybe he represents like the French, you know, during the Second World War. Very weak, you know. They just let good old Germany just go right in, you know, like the female German protagonist in Anatomy of a Fall. She just sort of just drives into this guy over and over, and then maybe he has enough, you know. Maybe this poor sap, this poor soul is like, you know what, screw it, and he just decides to end it. Or maybe there's a lot more going on here that we really realize. Like, for example, you don't know until a lot later on in the film that she's actually bisexual, and she was having an affair with a woman, you know. He probably didn't he wasn't very happy about that for obvious reasons. But imagine like your what it feels like to be, imagine what does to your masculinity to know that your wife is not only cheating on you, but cheating on you with another woman, you know. She decides to literally jump ship, like completely go into a different, you know, universe, completely different realm, away from you. Yeah, that must have done a number on his psyche. Also, I mean, but he's also the French guy is like he's a writer in the movie. Like he's some sort of academic as well. She's as well, but like he's like working on a book or something, and he just hasn't been able to do it. He's been saying that he's been doing it, but he hasn't done it. And then he blames everybody else. Like he blames her. He blames the fact that, because they have a child, I forgot to mention. They have a son in the movie, and he's blind. I'm trying to figure out the symbolism behind that one. A blind son. I know, unable to see. Yeah, I know. A blind son. But anyways, yeah, so the son goes blind. He thinks she blames him for it, and then he can't like go on with his book writing, and then, you know, there's like a lot of tension in the family as a result. He feels sexually unsatisfied, you know. He feels like he's unable to perform, so he feels very impotent, you know. He's unable to, in fact, he has no creative force. I mean, it actually permeates into everything else in his life, because like he feels not only sexually impotent but also creatively impotent. Like he can't create his book. Like he's frustrated. He can't really feel like what's going, like he can't really verbalize or even like pinpoint what the real issue is. Her, on the other hand, she's very like calm and collected throughout the whole ordeal. Yeah, she's a very like, she's very I would say she's very cold and calculating, but I mean, yeah. So then they go to court, and then in court they're trying to figure out whether it was her that killed him, right? Or it was like, or the other argument is, did he kill himself? Yeah. It is usually the case, eh? There's like this famous quote by this dude that I really like. He's really cool. His name is Eric Berne. Famous, like, I think psychologist or psychiatrist. But anyways, like he invented this thing called like transactional analysis. But there's this famous quote that he says. It goes by this thing called, he says, we all play games. Some games are for keeps. They end in murder, suicide, or the courtroom. And I felt like that quote like really encapsulates this whole movie, you know? Because there is a game that's being played between the female protagonist and her her late husband. Some sort of mind game, you know? And you're trying to figure out, like, not only what is being exchanged, but like what else is going on under the surface, you know? Like what's really going on that isn't really being delved into. We all play games. Some games are for keeps. They end in murder, suicide, or the courtroom. Well, in this case, like all three, really. I mean, they're trying to figure out whether it is a murder or a suicide, and it does end up in the courtroom. Yeah. If you guys are wondering, that quote pertains to like a particular type of game. It's called third degree rapo. It's not what you think it is, but it sort of is. Not quite, but third degree rapo. Yeah. You know what's really cool in that movie? There's a scene in that movie where he plays PIMP by 50 Cent. You don't know what you heard about me. Can't get a dollar out of me. You know that song? He plays that very loud during an exchange that the female protagonist, the German woman, is having with her female friend. And it's a song that's very, they describe it in the court, in the movie, that it's very, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Misogynistic, right? They say it's very misogynistic. And he plays it very loud, almost to make a point, because he doesn't approve of what's going on between his wife and this her mistress. But you know what's really cool though? I don't know if you guys are aware, but 50 Cent also alludes in his other songs that he used to be confused as a kid because he saw his mom kiss other girls. Because I think 50 would even allude to, he would say sometimes, like, sparingly, how his mom might have been bisexual. And then seeing that as a kid, it always filled him with confusion because he didn't understand what was going on. And the fact that, like, this guy's playing that same, like, PIMP, this song made by 50, and he's also coming to terms with the fact that his wife, his German wife, is bisexual. And the way he reacts to it, you know, frustrated, embarrassed, emasculated. Yeah. An anatomy of a fall from grace. Sometimes you gotta crack a few eggs, you know, to see what's really going on inside. But to crack it, you know, you have to, like, perform some sort of narcissistic injury. Yeah. And how do you do that? I feel like she did it in the movie by really getting at, like, who he was as a man. I mean, she cheated on him with, like, with a woman. And that made him impotent, you know? Which meant it cascaded to the fact that he couldn't even, like, do his book. Like, he couldn't, like, there was no creative force in him anymore. It was all gone. So then he just ended it. He just jumped, you know? A fall from grace. But intellectuals, I feel like, are more, like, academics are more, like, vulnerable narcissists. They're not, like, the grandiose type. The grandiose type is, like, some guy who's, like, very, you know, braggadocious, you know? He talks about himself all the time. He just goes on and on and on about himself. Like, there's nothing you can say to that guy. It's like, he's like Teflon, you know? Nothing you can say to this guy will make him, like, self-implode or self-destruct. Whereas, like, I feel like a vulnerable narcissist would be they're very touchy, you know? And if your whole identity rests upon, like, this, you being the smartest person in the room, and if you lose that, like, if you think that you're the smartest person in the room, first off, you're supposed to get out of that room, all right? You don't stay in the room. If you stay in the room and you know you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably a vulnerable narcissist. Like, you feed off of that. Yeah. That was his problem. He should have just left, you know? That French guy. The Frenchman should have just left. That weak French man, you know? That weak, docile, emasculated French man. He ended it all. He just let Germany go right in, eh? He just let her go right in and just do whatever she wanted. And he just sort of, poof, he just self-destructed. That poor Frenchman. You know, statistically saying, they say like even like a lot of like white, what is it, like middle-aged, like late middle-aged white men tend to like off themselves more than the general population in general. You think it has to do with like getting off, like being pushed off like your pedestal, being pushed off that high horse, you know? Like, imagine if you started at the top. It's kind of like anything, you'd be very like, it's precarious because like you have to stay up there, otherwise like the fall from there is so steep, like socially. Whereas like if you already start at the bottom, you know, like like you're a bottom dreg, you know, you're a peasant, you know, a cockroach, a bottom dweller, if you will, you know, a ne'er-do-well. Then like nobody really expects much of you, so you can just do whatever you want, you know. Nobody's gonna shame you or really pick out who you are or try to like really deconstruct who your identity is or your status, you know. Because that's the thing, status is very important, like the higher up you are. Like if you lose that, like it hurts just because like all the benefits you garner from that. Yeah, the higher you up, it's just like it hurts, like really, it really hurts if you fall, man. That's Lucifer, you know, like he was up, he was this dude's right-hand guy and decided, you know, he wanted more, or he felt like he just entitled to more. He couldn't be happy with being number two, like to the most powerful person in the world, like in the universe, you know, and he fell. But going back to the academic, you think it's because like he ate like the fruit of knowledge? Is that what it was? He ate this apple, the Frenchman. He had too much of it. And then she destroyed him, you know? But did she really, or did he destroy himself by eating too much of this apple? We don't know. Because if you blame the female, then you're not really taking responsibility for your actions, you know? It's not like she pushed him off the ledge. It's not like she forced him to eat the apple, you know? He went to school, he did all his PhDs and whatever, and then he became an unbalanced academic or imbalanced academic. He just became too booky, you know? Should have focused more on her. Maybe he would have been happier if he just did that. Rather concern himself with his new book. I don't know. Anatomy of a Fall. Yeah, status. Humiliation. Embarrassment. Aren't you embarrassed? Aren't you embarrassed? As Sebastian Maniscalco would say. Aren't you embarrassed? Yeah. Status. And then with embarrassment, where does that come from? From shame. See? You become aware that you've eaten the apple, and then you become like conscious of like status and your place in it and all that other stuff. And you get like a complex, and then, you know, that other stuff happens. Yeah. I don't know what you heard about me. Can't get $1 out of me. That song pertains to the whore part of the Madonna whore complex, guys. A splitting has occurred. Yeah, Fall from Grace. Anatomy of a Fall. It's a cool movie. I suggest you guys go watch it if you haven't seen it. That's a really cool movie. Yeah. A German woman, a French man, and the English language, you know? It's cool. Cool stuff. And a fall from grace. Anatomy of a fall. Status. You gotta hold on to that status. The hurry up you go. Otherwise someone might push you off your pedestal. Like Humpty Dumpty. Well, he didn't really get pushed off. You think he got pushed off? I don't think he got pushed off. I think Humpty just fell. Did he fall or did he jump, you know? It was an egghead. Maybe the state wanted to see what was going on in his head, you know? Make some, like I said, make some toys. Some cool toys from what's going on in Humpty's head. But anyways. I think I'm gonna make this one short. All I wanted to talk about was that movie, you know? I feel like I did that. I think I pulled out all the, like, the important stuff that you should really like look for in that movie, Anatomy of a Fall. So to recap, what is it? Fall from grace, you know, narcissistic injury, status, embarrassment, shame, vulnerable narcissism, you know, academia, intelligentsia, you know, the apple. Yeah. But I wonder why it was a German, Frenchman, and English. You know, the allusion to World War II. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But maybe World War II was like a. It symbolizes something else. What could have happened? Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, that's it. And before I go, I like dirty white girls, dirty white girls. Dirty white girls. French rap sucks.